Us.
Literally found myself, even though I'm wearing a mask, I want to take down my mask when I pass a Black person and be like, I am so sorry. Welcome to Hard Candy and Fruit Snacks.
I'm Gloria Harrison, a TV producer living in New York.
And I'm Carrie Clifford, an actor and writer living in Los Angeles. We first met in elementary school outside Boston.
When I was part of a program that bused kids from the inner city to school in the suburbs.
You guys were like guests in our school, and we were sort of told that like how lucky you guys were to have this opportunity, which is so already warping the dynamic. We're going to talk about privilege and disadvantage.
And about what it's like to move from one world to another without really feeling at home in either.
We didn't know that you were singled out.
You as a white student didn't know.
Yes.
But Black students are always aware.
In this podcast, we're having conversations about race.
When you saw the woman in the news in Central Park, I was enraged. This woman believed that anything she could say had more value than that Black man.
I cannot believe people that have similar backgrounds to me are the problem.
And the awkwardness that comes with learning about people from another culture.
You have these ideas that just aren't true because you've never talked to a gay person or a Black person or whatever.
You're white, I'm Black, we're both sharing the same feelings. We're going to do better than our parents, and welcome to America. I think a lot of people are going through this. I'm Gloria Harrison.
And I'm Carrie Clifford.
Welcome to Hard Candy
and Fruit Snacks.
So before we get into the podcast, I want to throw it over to Jay to talk about how this collaboration started.
Thank you, Gloria. So as we were, building up the Social Justice Committee, we wanted to be able to outreach to the community. And on one of the restless nights where I couldn't sleep, I put on my podcast, to listen to some tunes as I go. And so I saw Gloria Harrison post Hard Candy and Fruit Snacks online. So I was like, check this out. And when I started listening to the podcast, I went from trying to listen to a podcast, go to sleep, to sitting up in my bed, taking notes. Like, oh my goodness, like this is amazing. To hear one white woman, one Black woman talk about, the differences in the society. And so I thought this would be an amazing opportunity for them to, apply for the Spark grant and outreach to community, which Gloria and Carrie are definitely going to talk about how we went from the collaboration to how much community outreach that they both worked so hard to get.
Yes. And so, I want to just back up just a little bit and before we get into the outreach and just talk a little bit about what was going on in our lives and mostly what was going on in America about a year ago when we learned the passing of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. So many hurtful things and racial disparity was brought to like an all-time high. And at that time, I remember laying on my couch and I was crying as a Black woman trying to figure out, what's wrong with this country and how do we heal and can we do better? And at that point, I received a phone call from my childhood friend, Carrie, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about that.
I did what now I know was a very white thing to do, was like to reach out to your Black friend. And Gloria is someone who I've known forever and we've kept up in our adult life as well. And I just had questions. I don't know if you guys remember, there was like, on social media, it was like, put up a Black square in solidarity. And then it was like a couple of days later, like, no, don't do that. We need to amplify Black voices. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to Gloria. Like, what am I supposed to do? How can I be an ally? And we got to talking and I was like, I think we have a really interesting history just because we did meet through this busing program and it was this attempt at desegregation that wasn't necessarily successful, but in some ways was. And anyway, so it's an interesting history. And so I kind of just said, would you want to talk about this? Would you want to talk about our past and what's going on now? And Gloria was like, nah, I'm good. But then we started talking and persevered and we just like had all these topics to talk about. And we were doing it before we connected with Jay, obviously. And then once we connected with Jay, realized that like, oh, there's, race issues in medicine, but it didn't even have to be medically related. And we did 7 episodes, nicely sponsored by the Office of Ideas. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback on those.
Yeah, in addition to the community, before I get into the outreach, what was important to us was when we applied for the grant and when we were awarded, our thing was, how do we pay it forward? And so collectively, Carrie and I we talked amongst ourselves. We reached out to the Office of Ideas and they were like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing idea. We're going to pay it forward. We're going to create a social justice scholarship. And in that social justice scholarship, we were able to pay it forward with 2 students from the Boston area, 826 affiliated, as well as MECCO, where we both attended our school years, from first grade to 12. So that was, talk about community outreach. We were able to pay $60,000 we raised in less than 3 months, right? And awarded 21 students. So let's start right there. That's community outreach. That's saying to people that come from low and disadvantaged neighborhoods that we believe in you. Office of Ideas believes in you. This Black woman and white woman who came into this brave space were able to come together and say, we believe in you. And we want to help begin to try to bridge the gap. And so in doing that, we were so honored that we had so much support from 826 Boston, Office of Ideas, our colleagues, our friends, our families. Listen, we begged anybody that would listen. We were like, listen, who has money? Who has, do you want to be an ally? And I am like overwhelmed at what we're able to accomplish. Now we're going to talk to you about the community outreach in terms of, let's just mention the episodes, right? You want to show the episodes, the first one that we did and how we were able to reach the community. So I'm not sure if she's ready to share.
Or we can just read them, Gloria, too.
Go ahead.
You want to do that?
Yes, absolutely. So
okay,
the first one.
Go ahead.
Carrie.
No, so in total, we did 7. We were intending to do 6 and we did 7. And the first was about the vaccine, because that was that was in January. So that was very prevalent on all of our minds. So we got to talk with Dr. Rich Joseph at Brigham and Women's, and we talked about sort of to vaccine or not. And then since that was like, that kind of ended up splitting into 2. And so the second episode, we were talking about the trials and tribulations of the vaccine. And we talked to Dr. Pena,
And Carrie, I want to chime in on that one. Dr. Pena, guess what? She's the one that convinced me. I wasn't trying to take the vaccine as a Black woman. I'm like, yeah, no, you guys have done too much historically. She was like, Gloria, she pulled up her sleeve, right, Carrie? She was like, I'll walk through it. I was a part of the trial. And guess what? She inspired me. And I know other people from the Boston area were inspired from the inner cities of Boston and also surrounding Brigham and Women's Hospital. People were able to say, you know what? All right, if this host is going to do it from the podcast, maybe I'll do it. And my thing is, if Dr. Pena is going to do it, then I'm going to do it. And so what we know for a fact is that we were directly responsible for encouraging people, starting with me. And the influence that I have on people in my community, in my neighborhood, in my family, my relatives. So I just wanted to tell everyone that talk about community outreach, that was amazing and incredible. And we saw the direct result of that.
Yeah. That was amazing. And then episode 3, we talked called Painful Pandemic Realities. And we talked a lot about like navigating this time as working moms and just sort of that feeling that a lot of people had with, through the pandemic, the weight of everything, dealing with homeschool, dealing with working from home, dealing with to get vaccinated or not, whatever, all that struggle we touched on. And then in episode 4, we started asking questions about race. So we sort of did like ask a white person, ask a Black person. And some of them were heavy. Some of them were kind of hilarious. Like I didn't know it was a thing that that white people don't use washcloths, but I guess that was asked why white people don't use washcloths. So anyways, there is a spectrum of amazing questions and answers for that one. And then episode 5, we did a doctor who looks like me and sort of touched on that about how people sometimes want to have a doctor that's the same sex or same race. Sometimes people don't care, and just sort of the ideas and history behind that. And then episode 6 was about code switching. And we both had interesting stories about how, it's not always a race thing. I sort of, if I'm around like more academic people, I try and use bigger words or whatever. And, Gloria got to talk about how she might have acted a different way when she was in Dorchester, where she lived, versus in Wayland, where she went to school, and, how we all sort of adjust differently to the people that were around. So that was pretty interesting. And then the last episode, which just was uploaded tomorrow, and we encourage you all to download it, is with the 4 scholarship winners. And as Gloria mentioned before, those 4 each got $10,000. And then we were able to give 17 runners up $1,000 and $2,000 to pay for computers and school supplies. But those 4 are amazing individuals, and it brought us both to tears, and hopefully you guys can listen.
Yes, and also what I want to talk to you about, in each one of those 7 episodes, we put links to where to get vaccinated, how to learn how to find a doctor that looks like me, what, like the psychology behind it. Like each thing that we did, we put different links for people to say, okay, beyond this episode, you can go on and try to find more information. And I want to talk to you really quickly about corporations who contacted me personally, who reached out to Carrie, and Carrie can tell you a little bit about it. I had HR people tell me, not just from the medical field, but other fields, that people say, in listening to your podcast, I now want to rethink my hiring process. Because we talked about diversity at work as well. Not only hiring diversity, but having it so that they felt like they feel welcome, that they're not just invited to get the job, but how do you make it so that they can sustain over time? And what we found is, from listening to the podcast, people are like, you know what? I want to have more diversity. Around people, but I don't want to just hire them. I want to give them the tools that they need to succeed. And so that was amazing to hear from human resources departments from various companies, people thrilled about us doing this initiative.
Oops, sorry, there was a lag.
Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
What do you say?
Oh, no, sorry, there's a computer lag. I was going to say, to add on to that, the director from Weldon Medical Center reached out to me and they sponsored Hard Candy and Fruit Snacks on their newsletter and asked for them to be able to come and speak to their part of their HR recruitment process for people onboarding about diversity.
Oh, and I guess on that too, we should just say too that we actually were on an episode of The Doctors talking about the scholarship and about the podcast, and we did an episode of Channel 5 City Line talking about the same initiatives, and
as well as the Dorchester Reporter.
Yep, and the Metro West Daily, and those 2 publications recently did a follow-up and interviewed the recipients as well. So we've gotten some press, and we always have the upside of ideas in there. So yeah.
They were included on the front page of the newspapers, which is awesome. So not only are we reaching people in the community, we're getting coverage where people are saying, you know what, this is fantastic. And it makes us know that the hard work that we've all done, this collaboration, is worth it. Like when she tells you we were in tears, we literally were in tears when we met those students, because they said to us, you changed our lives. And that's how I leave with the Office of Ideas. We changed their lives. And so if you can imagine that, to hear a young person say that and to say that we made a difference. I have 3 kids. I can cry right now. It warms my heart. It's like, all the things that I did. I mean, I did a 5K walk 5 days in a row and my legs were killing me. And I was like, donate $5, $10. Okay, Carrie and I said, roast our senior pictures. Which I had this big hair. They were like, are you Oprah? Who are you trying? I said, I don't have Oprah's money, honey, but I wish I was, but the bottom line is we better roast us, have a good time, and give in the name of paying it forward. And last thing I want Carrie knows is I have to talk about this, the modern day village. That's what I see in the Office of Ideas and Hard Candy and Fruit Snacks and 826 Boston and Metco. It took a village to do what we've done. And it started with Hard Candy and Fruit Snacks. It then went on to the collaboration with Office of Ideas. And we can proudly say that this modern day village, it's incredible, right? Because growing up, they say the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a family. That's all I knew. The neighbor, auntie, grandma was watching the kids. And now we have people in different levels, different walks of life, different social backgrounds, and who are financially stable and can give back and say, guess what? We love what you guys are doing. We don't know how you're doing it, but we're willing to donate. And all those small amounts added up to what we were able to achieve.
Thank you, ladies. That was amazing, as always. You guys, you can tell your radio personnel is just because I'm like, oh. I couldn't have said it better. And I just want to also add, I did a walk with Jay too. I inspired by Gloria. I was like, I feel so bad. She's burning her cast and go burn some too. You
you even did it live. You did Facebook Live with that too. I mean,
yeah,
Gloria
I was
didn't even do
live
that.
asking people to donate. And so everything was, I can just I want to thank everyone for your collaborations, for your efforts, for your support, whether it was financial or just sharing social media. Just thank you, everyone, and definitely, giving us the opportunity to sponsor you guys. And I think that it was definitely impactful on our community.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Drew and Dr. Emo, it was so much fun to work with you guys. I love making you laugh. I love, we started off, I was like, I'm hard candy. And she's like, you do it. Tell them what you did when you first met them. What did you say?
I forget. What did I do?
Hi, I'm Carrie and I represent white privilege. And I think Dr. Emo was like, oh gosh, they're crazy. But for us to laugh about it is for us to start to accept what really is going on in this country.
Yeah, I'm not in denial.
Not in denial anymore. She came to me in denial and we're working for it.
This is great, guys. I mean, really, really inspiring and phenomenal work. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much.
All right.